Yo, what's up? Dr. Swole here, MD, pro physique athlete. Today I'm going to be talking to you about why desexualizing your brain is a cheat code. I'll tell you a story. I remember I was out to dinner with some bros, and they were all on their phones checking out this girl on Instagram. One guy turns to the other and is like, yo, this girl is so hot. And they spent a good 5 minutes just stalking this girl's Instagram and looking at all her thirst traps. And I remember sitting there just feeling confused. Why are we sitting here wasting our time and energy on this girl that these guys aren't even dating? She may as well not even exist. She's not here. And it got me thinking about how hypersexualization is one of the biggest pitfalls that guys run into nowadays. Hypersexualized content, whether it's porn on Instagram or other social media, is everywhere. If you go on YouTube and search yoga videos, you can see videos where people have taken great care to get just the right angle to portray some girl in a suggestive way. There's a lot of ways guys mess up in this realm. This could range from watching porn to just scrolling photos on Instagram. The problem is that it feels natural. It's basically your lizard brain talking to you and wanting you to choose short-term gratification. Today I'll be telling you about the problems this has in your life and what you can do to get around it. Do you feel low on motivation to chase success? Apathetic, lazy? Dopamine could be one of your issues. The problem with something like watching porn is that it's a very unnatural stimulus. We weren't designed as a species to be exposed to this kind of content at our fingertips. So when you undertake any kind of high dopamine spiking activity, whether it's doing drugs or watching porn, you're gonna get these high dopamine peaks. But the problem is with dopamine, when you get high peaks, you're also gonna get deep lows afterwards. If you've ever felt a letdown period after some great achievement or big celebration, you'll know what I mean. Also, when you're used to having high dopamine spikes, it will increase the threshold for dopamine release. This means it's going to be harder and harder for you to actually get that feeling of satisfaction. This is a big problem because if you want to achieve anything great in life, you're going to really have to put your mind fully to something and apply yourself with 100% discipline. You're going to have more motivation overall when you follow the recommendations that I'll be giving later. I read the book Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, and it was really interesting because this book was about success, but there was a whole chapter in it about sexual transmutation. Sexual transmutation is basically taking sexual energy and transforming it into something productive. To quote from the book, Napoleon Hill says, "Sex desire is the most powerful of human desires. When driven by this desire, men develop keenness of imagination, courage, willpower, persistence, and creative ability unknown to them at other times." This is going to be a key concept that we're going to be coming back to later in the video. It's actually one of the biggest points and we'll be covering it last. Now, the next problem that comes with hypersexualization in your life is wasting time. This manifests in different ways, whether it's watching porn, scrolling on Instagram, texting girls, swiping on dating apps, or even just thinking about girls in general. All of this time could be spent more productively, and if you really want to be successful in life, you're going to have to free up as much of your mental bandwidth as possible. I remember having a crush on this girl in my elementary school class, and I'd be thinking about her all the time. I'd be sneaking glances at her in class, and I remember at one point starting a diary and writing down my feelings about her. Surprise, surprise, nothing happened with her, and all that time and energy was just down the drain. We're going to talk about how you can use this time and channel it into something that's going to be productive and actually end up improving your love life. Because guess what? Years later, that girl from elementary was the one who was DMing me. Now, another issue guys are going to run into are issues dealing with women. Nowadays, in our internet culture, guys spend so much time on their phones looking at girls and swiping on girls and texting girls that they don't develop the ability to talk to girls and deal with them in real life. We interviewed hundreds of girls this summer about dating, and one consistent theme that came up was that girls liked it when guys met them in real life and actually approached them. You need to put in the time and energy to learn these skills. When you're always watching porn and fapping, you're not going to have that sexual energy. And girls are going to notice this in your confidence, tonality, and eye contact. To take this a step further, some guys will even get erectile dysfunction from watching too much porn. Problem is, as we said, porn is a very unnatural stimulus. And the thing is that guys' arousal circuitry will actually get wired to the porn stimulus rather than a real girl in real life. So as you can see, desexualizing your brain is actually going to improve your love life in multiple ways. Keep in mind here that I'm not talking about totally eradicating girls from your life. The solutions I'm going to be giving are going to teach you how to deal with them in the right way and in a way where you're not wasting your time and effort. Also note that this is not going to completely be in the nofap camp, but I will talk about how this does play a role later. Alright, let's move on to talk about solutions. Here's where things really get interesting, and we're going to talk about how desexualizing your brain is a cheat code for life. The first thing I would recommend is to cut out porn cold turkey. You really aren't getting benefit from watching this, and you're better off just totally going cold turkey to start. The problem is, if you keep just a little bit of it in, is that it sets that threshold for dopamine release. Remember that we talked about when you're used to getting these really intense stimuli, your threshold for dopamine release gets set higher. So if you're always chasing these highs, you're not going to feel good from doing normal productive activities. We want to get to the point where we can derive a lot of satisfaction just from our daily routine. Going to work, going to the gym, and chasing our passions. So yes, cut this out completely. Things aren't going to feel the same for a while, but that's okay. It will take your brain a little while to reset. In the book Dopamine Nation by Anna Lemke, she suggests that people with addictions take a full month of abstinence in order to reset their brains. Now, the second point on our to-do list today is to stop consuming sexual content. And this goes beyond porn into all realms. So stop following those scantily clad girls on Instagram or clicking on thirst traps on other social media. This can be hard to do because it's everywhere. It's funny because I'll be trying to look up fitness content on TikTok for research, and I'll see some video of a girl talking about nutrition and things have blown up, even though her advice is really terrible, but she's just wearing this really low cut top. The problem with social media is that the algorithms are really smart. So if you like a photo on Instagram, it's going to start showing you more photos like that in your feed. So don't interact at all and just keep scrolling through it. If you're able to, tell the platform that you don't want to be shown more content like that. And if I happen to be following anyone who's posting really sexualized content, I will actually unfollow them. I think actively unfollowing people is a really powerful skill to have. Your social media feed is basically what is going into your brain and is going to be a big part of who you are. Follow inspirational and motivational creators instead. Your social media feed should be something that gives you ideas and makes you want to go back and get at it. Now, next step on our plan for desexualizing your brain is to minimize dating app use. This is a sneaky one that not a lot of people talk about, especially since dating apps have become so accessible. A lot of guys will waste tons of time swiping on girls and messaging girls on dating apps. And a lot of these guys aren't even really getting success on them. Two big points here. The first one is that the reason you're not having success with these girls is that you haven't leveled yourself up enough as a man. The dating scene has gotten way more competitive now since social media gives girls access to the whole world. And now you're not just getting compared to the guy down the street, but you're getting compared to that billionaire on a yacht in Miami. So you're going to want to take the time and energy that you're going to free up after watching this video and spend it towards leveling yourself up as a man. The other point to this is that instead of talking to girls on apps, I want you to focus more on talking to girls in real life. Even just building the ability to talk to strangers in real life is going to give you massive gains in the future. I find it so strange nowadays how you could literally be sitting in a bar and you can see some guy swiping on a dating app when there are girls in real life right in front of him that he could be talking to. So I really want you to prioritize real women instead of girls on apps. If you are using dating apps, try to minimize your use. Set a very narrow predefined window of time where you will actually swipe on them, and only reply to your messages at certain times of the day. If you think you're getting along with a girl, then actually make plans and meet up. It boggles my mind these days to see how people could be talking to someone for weeks on end and then finally meet up in person and find out they're not the girl the guy actually thought she was. Now, the other thing I wanted to set out with this is setting a cap on how much energy and time you're investing into girls in general. You do want to get better with women, but there is a limit to how much this is going to benefit you. I think it's really important for guys to spend the time to learn how to deal with women, but beyond that, there's not really a benefit to trying to have 10 girls on your roster. Now, the next action point I want you to work on is to pursue minimalism. This is going to be huge because you're going to learn how to take control of your dopamine system. Remember we talked about how really big dopamine peaks lead to deep troughs. This is basically the idea behind the dopamine detox. When you limit the amount of unnaturally high stimulatory peaks you get, you're not going to dip as low, and your overall motivation from day to day is going to be higher. You're also going to get a lot more enjoyment from more normal type stimuli. So this goes beyond porn to substances in general. I actually recommend people try and minimize substance use, and you'll find that you'll get more enjoyment from just simple pleasures like just walking out in the sunlight, listening to music, or getting a good pump or workout. When I was in my early years in med school, I really put my nose to the grindstone and studied my ass off. In my first year of med school, I was still running varsity track and field for my university. I ran the 400-meter hurdles. And I would go to school from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., med school. Then I would go to track practice from 5 to 8 p.m. We'd do hard track sprints, and then we'd go to the gym and do heavy lifts like power cleans, squats, and deadlifts. Then I would come home and I'd be so exhausted that I could barely even eat before crashing and passing out for the night. When it got to the weekend, I would be so behind from not studying during the week because of track practice that I would have to put in these long 13-hour study days just to catch up. And I remember one of my first group tutorial teachers, she was this stern little Russian woman, but I remember her scolding me after the tutorial session because I hadn't prepared well enough. Her telling me, you have to hang up those running shoes. Anyways, I was so busy trying to balance med school and track and field that I didn't have time to be going out and partying or chasing girls either. And basically, I was so minimalistic in the kinds of rewards I would give myself that I would get a lot of enjoyment just from driving in my car and listening to music. I remember this one time I was driving from hospital to hospital. I think it was from BJH to RCH, which are two hospitals in the Vancouver area. And I was just jamming out to music and I just felt so high. When you can train yourself to take satisfaction from something as simple as just playing a song, you're going to be exponentially more productive than someone who goes out and does a bunch of drugs and drinks and has a massive hangover and is basically incapacitated the next day. One trick is to focus on achieving small milestones and celebrating the achievement of each. Telling yourself that you're on track to reaching your goals is a big stimulator of dopamine release, and it's something that you can leverage. You ultimately want a wider sense of satisfaction to actually executing the mission. When the process becomes the object of celebration and not necessarily the final outcome, you basically become an unstoppable machine on your way to success. Now, the last point I want to talk about today, and this brings it back to Napoleon Hill, is to master sexual transmutation. Sexual energy is one of the biggest driving forces that we have as men. And you need to learn how to harness this energy and use it for productivity and not to be enslaved by it. If you're fapping a lot, I would recommend reducing your frequency of masturbation. When you have sexual discipline, you're going to have way more focus and energy that will overflow into other areas in your life. You want that feeling of just wanting to go out and conquer the world. That feeling is one of the essences of being masculine, and it's something that you want to lean into. Nowadays, men are weak and lack purpose, and this is one of the reasons why. I want you to take that energy and direct it towards something useful. Whether it's working out, your career, your side hustle, or your hobby. Go out, think big, and try and change the world, because you can. When you learn to harness all this energy and focus it towards whatever you want, you're going to become a living weapon of productivity. And guess what? This is going to improve your sex life as well. Girls can smell that sense of purpose on a guy. And from our interviews, ambition is one of the biggest turn-ons for them. Now, you don't have to be extreme about the nofap thing. The trick is that you want to find a balance. Everyone falls along a spectrum in terms of their sexual functioning. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you your optimal frequency or give you any rules about it. But you want to have that feeling of getting up in the morning and facing the bright prospects of a new day. Now, one reason why guys fap so much and watch so much pornography is that they're lonely. So as I said earlier, you want to develop your skills in terms of meeting women in real life. But the other aspect of this is to actually build your social network and spend time doing cool things with people that you actually care about. Get out and live a life that you're going to be proud of and that you can tell people about with passion. If you find that you're fapping a lot or watching a lot of sexual content and you're having trouble getting the girl that you want, check out this video where I share a full guide on how to be attractive to women. As I mentioned earlier, we interviewed hundreds of girls this summer and we learned a lot about what girls actually look for in men. Make sure you subscribe to the channel to level up your life, and we'll see you next time.